morning students. So today we are going to discuss about the concept of banks nationalization. Okay, so in this particular concept we are going to discuss about which factors led to nationalization of banks, and at the same time what happened at the time of nationalization of banks, and we need to know about the case law RC Cooper versus Union of India, which was famously known as banks nationalization case, and what happened after that. We are going to discuss about all these areas in today's class. So coming to the first concept, which factors led to banks nationalization. Okay, so we already discussed previously. Maximum of our banks are established in private sector only. So that means private people voluntarily establishes banks. That means money lenders later they establishes banks and they are lending money to the people who are needy. Okay, so that is a basic concept. Okay, so why they want to nationalize banks? Government want to nationalize of that particular banks. So in this particular area, before we are going to discuss about this particular one, we need to discuss about some issues relating what was happening in political era. Okay, so in that particular area, generally when Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister, so he is the believer of socialism concept. He is a believer of socialism concept. Okay, so after him, okay, his daughter Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister. So like her father, she is also a believer of socialism concept. So based on that particular concept, she want to nationalize what are the important areas. So she want to nationalize all those areas. So before she nationalized these banks. Okay, this particular concept. Okay, previously she nationalized the concept relating to the gas and electricity, all these things. Okay, so later she want to nationalize banks. Okay, so now we will see what are the factors led to nationalization. Okay, the first and foremost thing is, so in total economy only 2% was going to agriculture purpose. 2% was going to agriculture purpose. Why? Because generally most of the money lenders want to give their money, that through banks want to give their money to the people who are doing business only. Okay, so they are not interested in agricultural purposes. That is one reason, and another reason is there were two major wars taken place in the year 1962 with China and 1965 with Pakistan. Okay, so those factors also, those wars also, due to those wars not taken place in India, so they want to change their economy goals. Government want to change their economy goals. Okay, so these all are the factors led to nationalization of banks. So in this particular concept, in the year 1949, so already we all know RBI was established in the year 1935. In the year 1949, they nationalized RBI. That means the government take into that particular into custody, the RBI. Okay, so you all people aware that RBI is generally considered as head of all the banks. So in the same era, in the same area, in the year 1955, Imperial Bank of India, which was established in private sector, turns into SBI, State Bank of India. Not only SBI, seven subsidiary banks become nationalized, and that means it went to the hands of the government. Okay, these all are the first steps. Taken by the government before nationalizing the banks. Okay, before nationalization of banks. Okay, so under in the year 1969, they want to nationalize banks. Okay, so in the tenure of Srimati Indira Gandhi. So at that time, Morarji Desai is acting as Deputy Prime Minister. So he clearly opposes this particular concept of nationalization of banks. So why? Because due to this particular nationalization of banks concept, so they need to give total around 86 crores of rupees to settle down the accounts of the shareholders of all the banks, to settle down the accounts of all the shareholders of that particular banks. Okay, so for that particular purpose he clearly opposes that particular issue, and at the same time it will give much effect on economy. But so based on that particular concept, Morarji Desai was dismissed from the government on the next day. His resignation was sent to President of India, and on July 19th, 1969, okay, before 2 days of Parliament sessions, through an ordinance, they passed this particular nationalization of banks. Okay, so banking nationalization ordinance in the year 1969. Okay, so with that particular effect, on July 19th, 1969, 14 banks were nationalized. What is the concept they have taken into consideration to nationalize banks? So in this particular area, so whatever may be the banks which have 50 crore rupees of deposits, which banks have 50 crores rupees of deposits, okay, so those all banks need to be nationalized. Okay, so in this particular area, so these 14 banks, Allahabad Bank, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Canara Bank, Central Bank, Dena Bank, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Punjab National Bank, Syndicate Bank, Union Bank, United Bank, UCO Bank. These all 14 banks were nationalized in the year 1969. What was the concept to nationalize here? They have taken into consideration of which bank have more than 50 crore rupees of deposits. Those banks need to be nationalized. That is they clearly mentioned in that particular ordinance. Okay, so with this particular nationalization, what happened? Generally, these all banks, that means the persons who holds shares in all these banks, the government will pay compensation to them. Okay, and at the same time, if is there any issue related to payment of that particular compensation, the issue need to be resolved within 10 years of this particular nationalization. These are the rules mentioned at the time of nationalization. Okay, so what happened after this particular day? R.C. Cooper, who is the shareholder and who is the director of Central Bank and had many shares in Union Bank and other banks. Union Bank and Bank of India, he had more shares. Okay, he filed a writ petition on July 21st, he filed a writ petition. Okay, under Article 32 of Indian Constitution, his fundamental rights are violated, which was mentioned under Article 19(1)(g). Okay, so but in this particular matter, finally, what the court mentioned was, once this was done according to DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, and at the same time the word compensation is changed to amount, and at the same time they make some amendments to the Constitution of India, saying about the clear definition of property, and this was what happened in R.C. Cooper versus Union of India. Okay, so later in the year 1980, 6 banks were nationalized. At that time, what was the concept they have taken into consideration? So the profit, the assets or debt, whatever it may be, the total turnover of the banks is more than 200 crores. The total turnover of the banks more than 200 crores. So those banks need to be nationalized in this particular era in the year 1980. So at that time, 6 banks were nationalized to have having more than 200 crores of assets and liabilities. Okay, so those banks are Andhra Bank, Oriental Bank, Corporation Bank, Punjab and Sindh Bank, New Bank of India, and finally it's Vizia Bank. Finally, it's Vizia Bank. Okay, so these all banks were nationalized. These all banks were nationalized in this particular era. So this is the important matter. So till now we discussed about the important factors relating to banks nationalization here. Banks nationalization. Okay. So what are the factors led to banks nationalization? The main important factor led to banks nationalization is the agriculture people are getting less credit. Less credit. That means only 2% of credit in total economy. That is one of the best factor, and of course the wars taken place and all these things. Okay, and due to nationalization, so there is a chance to get control over all the banks, and with that particular area they have a get option to get control over the economy of the country also. So these all are the factors led to banks nationalization. Okay, so and in this particular area, R.C. Cooper versus Union of India, this is one of the important case we need to know. And at the same time, July 1969, 14 banks were nationalized. Okay, so whose deposits are more than 50 crores? Whose deposits are more than 50 crores? Okay, so of course there are a lot of positions taken place at that time, and at the same time in the year 1980, 6 banks were nationalized whose debts and liabilities are in and around 200 crores. This is simply about the concept of banks nationalization. Thank you all.